the original duo. Back in 1996, Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven unleashed something that would redefine horror forever. Billy Loomis and Stu Macher weren't supernatural entities or mythical monsters. They were just two high school kids with a grudge, a Halloween mask, and a twisted plan to avenge Maureen Prescott's affair. The genius here was making the killer human, someone you could sit next to in class, someone who'd crack jokes at a party while plotting your murder. Their methods were intimate and personal, phone calls loaded with horror trivia turning into violent home invasions. Billy's motive stemmed from his mother abandoning him after Maureen's affair with his father, while Stu tagged along for the peer pressure and sick thrills. They worked in tandem, one providing alibis while the other butchered victims with a buck 120 hunting knife. The coordination was simple but effective. Call, stalk, stab, vanish. Casey Becker's death set the template for everything that followed. Drew Barrymore's star power made audiences think she was the lead. Then Ghostface gutted her and hung her from a tree in the opening minutes. Steve Orth got disemboweled off screen as bait, his intestines spilling out while Casey watched in horror. Tatum Riley's garage door crush added creativity to the carnage, her body crunching through a pet door in a sequence that still makes viewers squirm. These weren't just kills, they were statements about subverting slasher expectations. The impact rippled through cinema, revitalizing a dying genre with self-aware commentary and genuine scares. Billy and Stu proved that Ghostface didn't need superpowers to terrify audiences, just believable human rage and a mask that anyone could wear. But here's the thing, Billy and Stu killed for personal reasons. Revenge, thrills. What happens when the motive shifts from personal to performative? When murder becomes a bid for celebrity? That question haunted Wes Craven into the sequel, because he realized something terrifying. If Ghostface inspired copycats in the movie, what would it inspire in real life? The answer came faster than anyone expected, and it changed everything about how these killers operate. The copycat seekers. Mickey Altieri and Nancy Loomis took the Ghostface persona to college campuses in 1997, escalating the body count and the stakes. Mickey wanted infamy, planning to blame movies for his killing spree in a trial that would make him a household name. Nancy, Billy's mother, wanted revenge for her son's death, proving that Ghostface's legacy could span generations. Together, they mimicked the original murders while adding their own twisted innovations. Their evolution introduced public spectacle to the franchise. Maureen Evans got stabbed repeatedly during a stab movie screening, the crowd cheering as she died on stage because they thought it was part of the show. Phil Stevens took a knife through a bathroom stall partition, blood pooling under the door while partygoers remained oblivious. Cece Cooper's sorority house chase ended with her being thrown off a multi-story roof, her body crashing below with compound wounds. Randy Meeks, the franchise's horror expert who knew all the rules, got pulled into a van and stabbed to death, breaking the illusion that knowledge equals survival. The car crash sequence ramped up vehicular chaos, Officer Andrews getting his throat slit. Mickey's courtroom obsession and Nancy's maternal rage added psychological layers that transformed Ghostface from simple slasher to cultural commentary on media violence and fame. Their betrayal of each other in the finale, Nancy shooting Mickey to silence him, showed that even killers can't trust their partners. This entry proved that copycats could amplify the original's terror by weaponizing public spaces and turning crowds into unwitting accomplices. The franchise had officially gone meta. Now, 2 films in, a pattern emerges. Duos, always duos. 2 killers working together, covering for each other, providing alibis. But what if that's the weakness? What if one person with the right motivation and the right tools could orchestrate everything alone? Remember that question, because Roman Bridger didn't just answer it, he proved he'd been pulling strings since before Billy ever put on the mask. And when the trilogy reveals its architect, you'll realize every kill you've watched was part of a design years in the making. The solo mastermind. Roman manipulated Billy Loomis into killing Maureen Prescott and provided pointers. His motivation was pure rejection. Maureen gave him up for adoption, and when he found her in Hollywood, she refused to acknowledge him. That abandonment festered into a vendetta that manipulated Billy and Stu into starting the killing spree years earlier. Roman operated alone, using advanced voice changers to impersonate multiple people and bulletproof vests to survive attacks that would have killed lesser killers. The Hollywood setting allowed for meta-horror on steroids. Christine Hamilton died from voice trickery that confused her with Cotton Weary, who got stabbed after a desperate struggle involving bookcases. Sarah Darling's death amid studio props turned failed weapons into dark comedy. The fake knives couldn't save her from a real blade. Tom Prince's house explosion added fiery spectacle, deviating from the franchise's usual knife work. But Roman's solo operation raises a critical question. The franchise won't answer for another decade. If one person can do this much damage alone, what happens when you give killers a decade to study his methods, to learn from his mistakes, yet realize that the real real innovation isn't working alone or in pairs, but turning the entire concept of Ghostface into a legacy project? Hold that thought, because Scream 4 doesn't just answer it, it weaponizes it. Roman's reveal as the trilogy architect reframed every prior kill as part of his grand design. The Columbine tragedy forced production to tone down violence, but Roman compensated with elaborate traps and psychological manipulation. His solo operation proved one person with the right tools and motivation could rival entire teams. The bulletproof vest trick during the climax subverted expectations again, showing that Ghostface could adapt defensive strategies. 3 films, 3 sets of killers, 3 motives: revenge, fame, abandonment. Notice what's missing: the internet, social media, the ability to broadcast your murders to millions in real time. When Scream went quiet for 11 years, the world evolved, and when Ghostface returned in 2011, the killers had evolved with it. But this time, the scariest innovation wasn't technology. It was the realization that being the victim could make you more famous than being the killer. That inversion changes everything, and Jill Roberts understood it better than anyone. The remake fanatics. Jill Roberts and Charlie Walker brought Ghostface back in 2011 with a twisted plan to become the new Sidney by recreating the original murders as a fame-hungry requel. Jill's motivation was pure jealousy. She resented her cousin Sidney's survivor celebrity and wanted that attention for herself. Charlie, a film geek obsessed with the Stab franchise, provided technical expertise with webcam recordings and live stream documentation. Their plan involved framing Trevor and self-inflicting wounds to play the final girl, but their partnership was always doomed by Jill's narcissism. The brutality escalated significantly here. Marnie Cooper and Jenny Randall's deaths teased audiences with fake-outs before delivering garage crushes and stabbings. Olivia Morris's evisceration stands out as one of the franchise's most brutal kills. Her friends watched through windows as Ghostface butchered her, entrails visible in a sequence that pushed MPAA limits. Rebecca Walters got stabbed and thrown off a parking garage roof, landing on a van in broad daylight. Deputy Perkins took a forehead stab that added dark humor to the gore, his flailing collapse mixing comedy with horror. Kate Roberts' mail slot throat stab and Robbie Mercer's livestream murder showcased how technology amplified the terror. Pay attention to what's happening here. Jill doesn't want to be Ghostface. She wants to be Sidney, the survivor, the final girl, the celebrity. This shift from wanting notoriety as a killer to wanting fame as a victim predicts something crucial about where the franchise is heading. Because if killers are studying survivor fame, what happens when survivors inherit killer bloodlines? When legacy becomes literal? We won't get that answer for another decade, but Jill plants the seed that grows into Samantha Carpenter's entire arc. Jill's betrayal of Charlie, stabbing him to death after he'd helped her kill everyone else, demonstrated ruthless ambition. Her self-mutilation to fake being a victim, including stabbing herself and smashing her head, showed how far she'd go for fame. The finale revealed her plan to blame Trevor and emerge as the sole survivor, turning final girl tropes into villainous manipulation. This entry satirized remake culture and social media narcissism, while delivering Wes Craven's final directorial vision. 4 films, 4 sets of killers, and a new pattern emerges beyond the obvious escalation. Each Ghostface is responding to the previous one. Billy and Stu set the template, Mickey and Nancy copied it for publicity. Roman revealed he designed it. Jill tried to remake it for fame. They're in conversation with each other, building on each other's work. So here's the question that should terrify you. What happens when killers stop just copying murders and start copying the entire mythology? When they don't want to be Ghostface, they want to save Ghostface from bad sequels? When fandom itself becomes the motive? Because that's when the franchise stops being about slashers and starts being about us, the requel worshippers. Amber Freeman and Richie Kirsch dragged Ghostface into the streaming era in 2022, targeting Samantha Carpenter because of her connection to Billy Loomis. Richie, an obsessive Stab fan furious about the franchise's elevated horror direction, groomed Amber into his killing spree to create better source material. Amber, a psychotic horror enthusiast who literally lived in Stu Macher's old house, reveled in the violence with disturbing glee. Together, they represented toxic fandom turning murderous, gatekeeping their beloved franchise through bloodshed. Their evolution introduced modern elements like Reddit threads and app-based taunts. Vince Schneider's bar throat stab set a brutal tone with soundtrack callbacks to the original. Judy and Wes Hicks's mother-son murders hit hard emotionally, false scares prolonging tension before outdoor and indoor stabbings. Dewey Riley's death shattered franchise conventions. The beloved deputy who'd survived 4 previous films got dual knives through his torso in a hospital showdown. His slow bleed out while heroically saving others broke viewers' hearts, proving no legacy character was safe anymore. Liv McKenzie's sudden headshot during the party accusation scene introduced firearms post-unmasking, escalating weapon variety. Notice how the weapons are evolving? Knives to guns, stabbings to burnings. The brutality is escalating, yes, but ask yourself why. Is it just to shock audiences, or is it teaching us something about what happens when violence becomes entertainment, when murders are performed for an audience? Richie and Amber killed to create better source material. They were literally producing content. And if that sounds familiar, if it sounds like what you're watching right now, then you're starting to understand understand what the franchise has been building toward. Because the final evolution isn't about methods, it's about motive. And New York proves it. The sanitizer fire that burned Amber alive in the climax added poetic justice to her demise. Richie's gutting by Sam, who channeled her father Billy's violence to survive, created a legacy parallel that honored the original while pushing the story forward. Sam's visions of Billy throughout the film added supernatural-tinged psychological horror without abandoning the franchise's human killer rule. This entry successfully rebooted the franchise for a new generation, while respecting what came before. The meta-commentary on toxic fandom and requel trends felt timely, and Killing Dewey proved the filmmakers would take real risks. 5 films, 5 motives. But look closer at the pattern. Every killer after Roman has been responding to legacy. Nancy avenged Billy. Jill envied Sidney. Richie and Amber defended the franchise. They're not just murderers anymore, they're custodians of mythology, protectors of legacy. So what's left to escalate? Simple. Make legacy literal. Make it biological. Make it a family business passed down through generations. That's when Ghostface stops being a mask anyone can wear and becomes a dynasty anyone can inherit. And that's exactly what the Baileys prove in the most coordinated, most public, most weaponized Ghostface attack in franchise history. The family dynasty. Wayne, Quinn, and Ethan Bailey formed Ghostface's first family unit in 2023, avenging Richie's death by targeting Sam and her friends in Manhattan. Wayne, a detective who manipulated investigations from inside, used his authority to cover their tracks. Quinn faked her death mid-film to maintain an alibi, returning for the shrine climax. Ethan, posing as a nerdy college student, provided the team's inside access to victims. Their coordination showcased evolved tactics, multiple Ghostfaces attacking simultaneously, shared alibis, and generational revenge that mirrored the Loomis-Tumulus-Roberts family connections. The urban setting amplified every kill. Jason Carvey and Greg Bruckner's murders added gruesome dismemberment when Greg's dismembered body appeared in a fridge. The bodega sequence revolutionized Ghostface attacks with the use of a shotgun by the masked killer to blast shelves in a door while pursuing Sam and Tara after stabbing the bodega clerk to death. Anika Kayoko's ladder bridge fall ranks among the franchise's most harrowing deaths. She crawled across an improvised ladder between apartments while Ghostface shook it. Her panic-induced drop captured an agonizing detail as Mindy watched helplessly. Dr. Christopher Stone took a brain stab through a security gate, improvised precision demonstrating the killer's resourcefulness. But here's what makes the Bailey family different from every previous Ghostface. They're not improvising. They're not covering for each other on the fly. They planned this for over a year, studying every previous killer's mistakes, building a literal shrine to Ghostface history. They turned murder into a research project, which raises the question, if a family of 3 can coordinate attacks this effectively, using methods from every previous killer, then what's stopping the next generation from going even bigger? From organizing online? From crowdsourcing kills? The franchise hasn't answered that yet, but the TV series tried to explore it, and what it discovered changes how we think about Ghostface entirely. The subway chase sequences utilized public transportation for claustrophobic terror, passengers becoming obstacles in deadly cat-and-mouse games. The theater shrine finale, surrounded by aged masks and weapons from previous killers, celebrated franchise history while acknowledging its body count. Wayne, Quinn, and Ethan's coordinated attacks with vintage costumes honored their family's twisted legacy. Their defeat by Sam wearing Billy's mask, channeling her father's violence to survive, completed her character arc from reluctant legacy to empowered survivor. This entry became the highest-grossing domestic installment by successfully urbanizing the terror and proving Ghostface works anywhere. 6 films, 6 sets of killers, and every single one eventually got caught or killed. But here's what the movies never explored. What happens when Ghostface isn't constrained by a 2-hour runtime? When the killer has 10 episodes to manipulate, gaslight, and destroy a community from the inside? When the format allows for long-game psychological warfare instead of quick slasher kills? The TV series answered those questions, and in doing so, it revealed something crucial about why Ghostface endures. It's not about the mask, it's about what the mask allows you to become when nobody knows who you are. The anthology variants. The Scream TV series expanded Ghostface's reach across 3 seasons from 2015 to 2019, experimenting with different masks and longer-form storytelling. Seasons 1 and 2 used the Lakewood slasher mask inspired by Brandon James, a local legend whose deformed face became the killer's identity. Piper Shaw's revenge plot in Season 1, tied to her mother's past, while Kieran Wilcox's Season 2 spree racked up 13 kills, the highest individual count in franchise history. Season 3 finally adopted the classic Ghostface mask, with Beth and Jamal executing thrill-seeking murders. The TV format allowed for episodic buildup that films couldn't match. Tyler O'Neill's decapitation delivered off-screen shock value. Officer Reynolds, known as Hookman, got hooked through his jaw and left hanging in a sequence that stretched suffering across minutes. Shane's eye gouging combined with drugging created chemical agony that television's runtime could fully explore. 11 kills. Kieran Wilcox holds the record for the highest individual Ghostface body count in franchise history, not in the films. In a TV series, most fans dismiss it as non-canon, which raises an an important question. If television can deliver higher body counts and longer form terror, why haven't the films adopted those tactics? The answer reveals something fundamental about what makes Ghostface work. It's not about quantity, it's about impact. About making every kill matter to the narrative, to the characters, to us. The TV series proved you can kill more people, but the films proved you can make us care about fewer deaths. And that philosophy, quality over quantity, is exactly what made the compounding legacy hit so hard. The anthology structure reset expectations between seasons, allowing fresh casts and locations while maintaining core slasher DNA. Trap lures like wind-up toys and hotel stabbings showcased creativity within television budgets. The pacing traded films' 2-hour intensity for slow-burn reveals across 10-episode arcs, building relationships before destroying them. Critics debated canonicity, but the series proved Ghostface's adaptability across mediums. These variants demonstrated that Ghostface transcends any single format, thriving in whatever medium channels the persona's core terror. That adaptability hits hardest when examining how the entire evolution compounds. The compounding legacy. So let's address the question we've been circling this entire video. Why does Ghostface keep evolving? Why can't it just stay the same? Keep delivering the same formula that worked in 1996? Because here's what the franchise has been teaching us all along, and what every killer, every weapon, every location has been building toward. It's not about the murders. It's about what the murders represent. And when you see how each era's brutality reflects its cultural anxieties, you'll understand why Ghostface can never stop evolving. Because we can't stop evolving. And the mask has always been a mirror. Ghostface's transformation from Woodsboro duo to New York Dynasty represents horror cinema's own evolution. Early entries relied on psychological warfare phone trivia building dread before intimate stabbings in private homes. Mid-series installments added public spectacles and meta-commentary, theater deaths and studio traps, critiquing media violence and Hollywood's exploitation of tragedy. Recent films escalated to urban warfare with firearms, coordinated teams, and social media integration, reflecting modern horror's need for heightened stakes. The brutality curve charts clearly across entries. Casey Becker's 1996 Gutting shocked through subversion, killing the biggest star in the opening. By 2011, Olivia Morris's witnessed evisceration pushed boundaries with visceral detail. By 2023, Annika's latter fall combined height terror with public helplessness, bystanders unable to prevent her death. Each era's most painful kills reflect their cultural context. 1990s personal betrayals, 2000s fame obsession, 2010s remake culture, 2020s toxic fandom. Notice the pattern? The violence escalates, but so does the reason for violence. We moved from "I'm angry at you" to "I want to be famous" to "I deserve to be famous" to "I'm defending what I love." The motives are getting more abstract, more ideological, more about systems than individuals, which means the next evolution won't be about method or location or family size. It'll be about ideology, about killers who don't want revenge or fame, they want to prove a point. And when that happens, when Ghostface becomes philosophical instead of personal, the body count won't matter anymore. The message will. That's the final frontier the franchise hasn't crossed yet, but it's coming. The family bloodlines connecting killers amplify narrative weight. Billy's rage over Maureen stems from abandonment. Roman's revelation as the architect traces everything to that same affair. Samantha inheriting Billy's violence creates generational cycles. The Bailey family avenging Richie proves these vendettas span beyond individuals to entire dynasties. Each iteration compounds previous trauma, survivors carrying scars that future killers exploit. Technical innovations parallel real-world technology. Voice changers evolved from basic 1990s gadgets to multi-persona devices. Phone harassment shifted from landlines to cell apps. Recording murders progressed from camcorders to live streams. Firearms entered the equation when knives alone couldn't shock desensitized audiences. Every upgrade reflects how actual violence integrates advancing tools. The franchise's self-awareness peaks in how it critiques itself. Characters reference rules for surviving horror movies, then break them. Stab films. Within films mirror real events, creating recursive meta layers. Killers obsessed with stab movies murder to create better sequels, weaponizing franchise devotion. This commentary on media violence and fandom makes Ghostface's evolution more than simply escalating its cultural examination through escalating brutality. Iconic moments transcend their entries. Casey's tree display invented the franchise's shocking opener formula. Dewey's hospital death proved legacy characters face real consequences. The bodega shootout revolutionized urban slasher chases. Each advancement builds on predecessors while innovating enough to surprise, maintaining freshness across decades. The mask's ubiquity makes every Halloween costume a potential threat. That accessibility terrifies because Ghostface could be anyone: your classmate, your partner, your family. The persona's adoption by groups rather than individuals compounds unpredictability. You can't profile Ghostface because it lacks single identity, existing as shared rage and violence anyone can channel. Real-world inspirations ground the terror. The Gainesville Ripper's phone taunts and student murders directly influence the original. Copycat crimes following releases prove fiction impacts reality, making Ghostface's media critique self-fulfilling. Edvard Munch's painting. Capturing existential dread translates to modern slasher iconography, art history merging with pop culture violence. Fan communities dissect every kill assignment, debating which killer performed which murder in duo-trio scenarios. Theories about hidden accomplices and alternate timelines fuel engagement between releases. Memes transform horror into humor, the mask becoming shorthand for Halloween scares and sudden shock. This cultural penetration ensures Ghostface's relevance beyond the films themselves. Production challenges shaped the evolution too. Script leaks forced Scream 2's killer identity changes mid-filming. Columbine led to Scream 3's violence reduction and reshoots. Cast upheavals affect Scream 7's development, with Neve Campbell's absence and director changes creating uncertainty. Yet the franchise endures because Ghostface requires no specific performer. The mask outlasts any actor. Roger L. Jackson's voice work remains the sole constant. His baritone, "Do you like scary movies?" echoing across decades. That vocal continuity grounds Ghostface despite rotating killers. The grunts, taunts, and phone harassment create audio signatures as iconic as the visual mask. So here's the final question, the one that ties everything together. Why do we keep watching? Why do we celebrate these escalations, rank these kills, debate which methods are most brutal? Because Ghostface has always been about more than entertainment. It's about examining our relationship with violence, with media, with the stories we tell about evil. Every evolution asks us to confront something uncomfortable about ourselves. The original asked if we knew our neighbors. The sequels asked if we'd kill for fame. The recent films ask if we'd kill for ideology. And the only reason these questions hurt is because we don't like the answers. That's why Ghostface endures. Not because it scares us, because it knows us. The evolution from knife-only combat to firearms represents larger horror trends. Modern audiences demand innovation beyond traditional slashers. Ghostface's adaptation, bulletproof vests, shotguns, coordinated teams keeps the franchise competitive against elevated horror and extreme gore subgenres. Yet it maintains identity by never abandoning core elements. The mask, the phone, the knife. Sidney Prescott's survival arc spanning 5 films created horror's most enduring final girl. Her journey from terrified teenager to trauma-processing adult to mentor figure charts personal growth through violence. Samantha Carpenter inheriting that mantle while confronting her own killer lineage extends themes across generations. These arcs prove Ghostface's impact transcends body counts. It's about how violence shapes survivors. The franchise's financial success, exceeding $910 million globally, demonstrates commercial viability. Each era's highest-grossing entry reflects the audience's appetite for evolution. Scream, Psych's urban setting and family dynasty attracted viewers tired of suburban retreads. The requel strategy, honoring legacy while introducing fresh characters, satisfied both nostalgic fans and newcomers. Cross-media expansion through Dead by Daylight, Mortal Kombat, and other games extends Ghostface's reach. Playable killer mechanics let audiences embody the terror, experiencing hunts from the predator's perspective. These adaptations introduce the franchise to gaming communities, creating new fans who seek out the films. If you enjoyed this video and want to see dumbest decisions in IT movies, click the video on the screen.